everybody, to Roll With It Entertainment. My name is Brittany Guthrie, your host for this evening. And today we have a super cool guest, perfect timing through the Olympics right now. We have Ross Rebagliati. Before you come for me, that is how you say it. Ross, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Brittany. Yeah, you nailed the pronunciation. It is Rebagliati. Nice work.
Yeah, I used to say, what was it, Rebagliati for so long, and so I'm really glad
Which
I'm
isn't
actually.
technically wrong, actually, but it's half my family says it one way and half says it the other.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's like sounds like interesting holidays.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, have you been watching the Olympics at all?
Yeah, I've been watching it. I've been busy also with life and everything, but it's always kind of on in the background. And yeah, I tune into some specific events.
Yeah, it's I do enjoy the snowboarding when everyone's doing their tricks down the, what do you call that
Yep.
when you're going down the.
Yeah, it's down the half in the half pipe there. Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
incredible
Yes,
what
that's
they're
what it
doing.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the
crazy.
snowboarding is fun.
Crazy.
Ski racing, I love that stuff. And yeah, I love
Yeah,
the Olympics.
yeah, it was awesome. Well, there's so many stories to tell, but we always have to start from the beginning. Our audience is mostly cannabis consumers and industry, and so they love to hear the story of why cannabis drew you in. What was that moment in your life where you thought, this is where I'm meant to be?
Well, it was quite the moment. I guess like it all kind of started when I moved to Whistler when I was 19. And that was kind of like, I knew about weed a little bit from, just high school or whatever, but not in the context that it was presented to me in Whistler by these professional athletes that were using cannabis from morning till night, like every couple of hours, and doing like incredible feats of, human performance every day, like whether it's mountain bike racing or hiking in the backcountry. And so that was kind of like the eye opener for me. But by the time I got to the Olympics, which was, 7 years later, cannabis had really become part of, my day to day, and just how I integrated it into my training, and how it was conducive to, competing at a high level. It was all old news to me by the time I got to the Olympics. But it was under the radar. Like, there was heavy prohibition. It wasn't like we were running around talking about it or anything. It was just kind of, what we were doing. Not everybody, just I was doing it and a few other people around the world, but specifically in Whistler, like it was part of the culture. And but then when I got to Nagano, I tested positive for cannabis after I'd won the gold medal, and it created this massive platform for me to really get behind cannabis. And that was kind of like the light bulb going off. Was, yeah, I'm gonna have to, take one for the team right now, but I think that I'll be able to turn it around over time and really kind of speak to, the benefits of cannabis from the perspective of an Olympic gold medalist who actually tested positive for it during the Olympics, which was smashing the stereotype and the stigma of cannabis at the time. So that was kind of the aha moment for me. It was like, okay, this is happening, and I think this is a good cause for me to like get behind. Like, it's the perfect scenario, right? So, that's what I ended up doing. And, from day one, from, February 8th, 1998 or whatever, or I guess it was probably the 9th or 10th by the time this story hit the airways. But that's 27 years of me talking about cannabis in the media when other people wouldn't talk about it. And especially athletes, they didn't want to lose like whatever opportunities they might have, so they didn't want to talk about it. So I was the go-to person. And yeah, it was quite the journey from then till now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's such a huge risk and sacrifice that you made because you did see something there and you felt something there. And that's a beautiful story. You know, every time I ask this question, it is so different. You know, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I started in high school and this and that," but like there's usually something deeper there. And so I love these stories, and I love that you are in BC and that you're a huge representation of cannabis. You're such a positive light. You're the key component to destigmatizing how people look at cannabis, and specifically the consumers themselves. You know, it's not, we're not all slop kebabs. You know?
No, that's
So,
for sure. Yeah, well, I appreciate
yeah.
that, Brittany. You know, there's been ups and downs, and it hasn't been an easy road. Like anybody who's been in the cannabis game for any amount of time will probably echo the same thing. You know, there's all kinds of challenges, but it's a newly legalized, framework for our whole entire industry. So we're all going through growing pains at the same time, and yeah, it's just it boils down to like careful management and finding a niche and differentiating yourself from the other, players, and finding your own spot in the industry, where you can thrive. So that's kind of what I'm doing, and I think that's probably what a lot of companies are getting more vertically integrated day by day.
Yes, yes. Well, and speaking of growing pains, you've actually managed to bring a brand successfully to market in BC. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pain behind the process of doing that, and I commend you for that. Can we see your hat for a second there?
Yeah,
Ross's
Ross's
Gold.
gold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful,
That's kind
beautiful.
of a different variation of our logo, but the leaf's been around for a long time, and yeah, we're proud of, I'm definitely proud of the brand, and you're right, it was a lot of years of prohibition before we even got to legalization. Then even after legalization, there was a period of time where I couldn't enter the market until regulations kind of moved around a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just about seeing it through, and it was like a personal, like part of our company slogan is "It's personal."
Yeah.
So that can mean a lot of different things, but for me, it was literally like, "This is happening. I'm going to do it," and yeah, I'm going to stand behind cannabis and the people who use it.
Yes, yes, exactly. And you know, part of your brand is that you're putting your face, your name, your success behind the plant. And so you actually work with a lot of growers to help bring these products to market. Are you able to share a little bit about who you work with right now?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. I personally visit the growers and get to know them on a personal level and understand their method that they use to grow the cannabis. And one of our growers in particular, Papa Joe's on Vancouver Island, does our mango gold, and it's an amazing facility near the ocean on the island, and they have a hybrid greenhouse where it's 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 organic, but they didn't go for the certification because it was too many hoops to jump through. But it's like premium cannabis, and it's got like this mango terpene profile that just punches you in the face when you open the bag. And yeah, it's specifically got a high level of terpinolene in it, which I like personally. Kind of gives you that euphoric kind of like, life is great kind of feeling.
Yeah.
For me at least. And so it's been a hit, and it keeps selling through. And a couple of other people that we've worked with in the past is Living Cannabis, also in Armstrong, BC. We did the Black Diamond with Living Cannabis, and they're
That's a
a
great one.
micro. Yeah, they're a great micro, and yeah, so that's basically what we like to do, is work with local brands and cross promote each other along the way, and so it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And it's not your only venture though in cannabis. I see this monstrosity of a machine behind you. Can you tell me
Yes.
a little bit about what you're doing over there?
That's the Blackbird by Roll Pros. And so it makes pre-rolls. We can do about, I don't know, roughly 800 an hour on this machine, and it does straight rolls. So they kind of cut. They look like cigarettes, basically. They're straight and they're cut. They're not stuffed. They're rolled. It's a premium methodology. It's called True Roll technology, and so that's kind of the one thing that we noticed in the industry was pre-rolls are so popular, and now we're kind of getting into the pre-rolls themselves. Like, okay, what's going to make the best kind of pre-roll? So we found this machine. I've been operating it for several years now, for different companies that own them. And then I was coming on board afterwards and training new employees for these companies. And then finally I bought my own machine. And so yeah, we've been working hard. I guess we started at the end of October, and yeah, we've rolled about 100,000 joints since then, for companies like Green Mile Original, 420 Farms, Pure Fire, Just Kush, and we just sent out an order to Neptune of the North, to Montreal. So that's kind of our first out of province customer. But yeah, so, and I also get to roll my own pre-rolls for Ross Gold. So that's kind of how I'm getting more vertically integrated also, is kind of cut down those processing fees and cut out as many middlemans as possible.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, your process is very inspirational. Like you're synchronized with the growers, but you're also making sure that your own product is coming to market as well, right? Like it's really interesting how you've married all that together. And so when you say these pre-rolls, there are those like the readies that came out a few years ago.
I don't know.
More
Let me show
still
you
like
one.
a doobie. Yes, let's see one if you've got one.
Okay, give me 2 seconds.
No
Bear with
worries.
me here.
All right, guys, this is an insane machine. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna come check that out.
Okay, so here's a bin of pre-rolls. I'm just gonna get my gloves on here.
Okay, so those, they still look like doobies.
Yeah, they're still doobies.
Yeah, that's when you first started describing this, my visual of this was like those Readies kind of cigarette style, because there is a couple brands doing it still. Kind of comes in like a skinny cigarette carton as well.
So there's, I don't know if you can see them or not, but let's see. Here's a good one.
And you've done over 100,000 of these?
Yeah, since the beginning of November. So we got the filter on that side, and basically it's a straight joint, but the machine literally rolls the joint, and that's what makes it good, because it's not pinched at the bottom. You don't have a, like, from top to bottom it's the same diameter, and so you don't get the clog that you get with a, you know, your common cone, where it pinches that down by the filter and it clogs up. And also too, because you don't have the big cone at the top, the cherry on the cones basically are too big, too hot, and you lose the flavor profile of the strain because of the big cherry. So these straight rolls, they have a consistent burn top to bottom, no runs, and you also preserve that flavor because it burns at a lower temperature. So that's the pitch. that's how it boils down.
That's very interesting. So you're keeping busy out there. You're in the Okanagan?
Yeah, just near Penticton in Okanagan Falls, and kind of nestled up in the mountains, kind of out of town a little bit.
It's beautiful. I spent a year in West Kelowna. I'd go to Penticton actually quite often, and just anywhere along that strip, there's so many little beaches and wineries. And that was really
gorgeous, right? The lake views and everything.
yeah, it drew a lot of inspiration for me going to those wineries, because I was like, I can't wait until there's enough of these grows where you can actually go on these tours and try the weed, and it's a whole day. You know, there's like
Yeah,
bachelorette parties on buses rolling through, and it's such a
there's
neat
a
tour.
couple of tours here and there, I think, that are operating, but I'm looking forward to the day where the farm gate, you know, is just like you say, like where there's enough where you can, and then get something to eat at these places, just like the winery, you know. So that's hopefully where
Yes.
it gets to. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Have you visited the Weeds Farm Gate out here in BC? Or sorry,
No,
not
I
BC,
haven't.
but Vancouver area.
No, I
It's
haven't been out to Don's place yet, but I've been following along there with them and their progress that they've made, and yeah, I remember when they were building it out, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to visiting.
yeah, it's stunning. I've been to a few events there, and it does not disappoint, but nothing would coming from Don and Carol. Like, they're really
Yeah,
incredible and incredibly hard workers too.
yeah, those
Like,
guys are inspirational. That's actually Don was the first person that I went to. I think it was like I'm gonna say 2012 when we launched a line of glass, Ross Gold glass across Canada, and
oh, okay.
yeah, and we were just kind of ramping up. Dispensaries were still illegal and everything, but Don had his weed store down on Kingsway, and I went in because I didn't know anybody from the industry at that point. And so I went into Don's store on Kingsway at Weeds there, and yeah, he was the first person that I talked to. I just felt obligated to go talk to one of the OGs and just get a feel for it and see like what the level of interest was, or if there was pushback. Or and Don was great, and Carol too, and yeah, they invited me with open arms, and it was definitely yeah, a good meeting, a good first a good foray into the business side of cannabis.
Yeah, you just kind of skipped over all of us, went straight to the top, eh?
Yeah, yeah, you know what,
That's your style,
things,
though. You go for the gold. We get it. We get it. It's no
yeah,
offense taken.
yeah, go for the head of the
But
snake, right?
yeah, but same thing. Like, I try and think back to why I met Don and Carol, and I think it was just I happened to go in their shop one day on Kingsway, and then from there I kind of like heard who they were and some great stories, and then I went to their place and we hung out and had dinner, and like they were so lovely, and it was just like really nice to see people like that who've gone through it all and are still working just as hard as
Yeah,
if days gone by. Like, it's
and it's a
incredible.
family affair too, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, they've got their son. I can't remember his name right now, but anyways, yeah, it's like a full family effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm loving the little canna families that are starting to pop up too. Like, the more babies, the better, because we have these like this new generation of canna babies, almost like Nepo babies,
I
like
know.
Nepo cannabis babies.
I've got 3 kids myself, and they don't really care about weed at all, you know, like the way we did when we were growing up. But
No,
I don't know why,
that's the
but
entitlement. That's that nepotism that
yeah,
they're like, they're going to be great. And if they decide to pursue the industry, they're going to be such an asset for the pivotal changes that are to come. But
yeah,
yeah, no, it's going to be kind of interesting, like over the next 20, 30 years, how weed will be integrated into society, because it's
yeah.
normalizing every day. So
Well,
it's
that's
really
just the thing.
interesting.
Like with the younger generation, like you say, are going to grow up without the same level of stigmatism and stereotype that we, you know, had to go through, and so they'll bring a whole new like vision to it.
Yeah. You remove the stigmatism and normalize it. You don't get the same stories anymore. It's not.
No, it's almost better like the way it was, you know, with the whole like hiding behind the tree to smoke a doobie. Now can just stand around, and it's not as much fun anymore. It's more fun hiding behind the bush, you know?
Yeah. Or not hiding behind the bush, but still like doing it with pride.
Yeah.
Like,
that too.
Same. You know, people would stare at you like, oh my God, is she smoking a doobie in public?
Just walking down the street. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I always, I held a lot of pride in that, and I didn't, you know, want to be respectful. I'm not blowing smoke in everyone's faces, but I didn't want to feel the need to hide it because it was very special to me. I had a good relationship with weed.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And I couldn't understand what the big deal was. But then I learned it was all about politics and stuff that was way over my head, and realized it had nothing to do with the fact that, you know, weed may or may not be bad for you. That wasn't the reason why it was, you know, put in prohibition. So yeah, I think it was a big learning experience for everybody to kind of figure out what their relationship is to weed, and also not just the physicality of using cannabis, but also like the political side of it, and the, you know, the legalizing it side of things, and the whole, like, movement. So
it's true. Like there was a lot of tough times to get where we are, and still a lot more to go, but it's crucial that we are getting through them together and sharing those stories, because if you ever feel like you're alone in something, that's when it gets dark and dangerous. So, you know, we need to open up and share the ups and downs, and I want to hear a little more about this gold medal that was given back. What's the story? Because I think everyone has their own version.
Yeah, so I was a pro snowboarder in the early 90s, and well, I started in the late 80s actually, and then somehow I got on the World Cup tour in like 91, and then we were the first generation of snowboarders to get allowed into the Olympics. And so that was amazing to see, like, the rise of snowboarding, the popularity of snowboarding just blow up, and the next thing you know, we're at the Olympics. I got there through the racing side of things. I was in freestyle also, but I found it easier to win races, so I focused on that. I had a ski race background, and anyway, so I get to Nagano and I win the gold medal. It was on the first day of the games, and it was the first time snowboarding was at the Olympics, so it was extra special. And so that was great. And then the next morning, my coaches told me that I tested positive for something. And I was like, oh my God, like, are you serious? And so we basically went through a process of appealing their decision. Like, they initially disqualified me, like right off the bat, they disqualified me. I still had my medal on me, but then I made a couple of appeals. I lost both of those by a 1 vote margin. It was really close, closest ever. And then went to the Court of Arbitration, which was my third and last chance. 3 strikes and you're out. And the lawyers in the Court of Arbitration simply pointed out that cannabis wasn't on the list of banned substances. And because that's what I had tested positive for. We didn't know what it was, but then we found out pretty quickly. And so because it wasn't on the list, which was a big surprise, because on the World Cup tour, it is on the list. But for some reason, the Olympic list of banned substances was different. And so thankfully, because that was the one thing it
was a happy error.
It was a great error. Yeah. And I was paranoid about it the whole entire time, because we found out in 94, like 4 years prior to going, that we were going to go. And so right away we're like, oh shit, I hope nobody tests positive for weed, because that, like, we're not doing snowboarders weren't doing steroids or anything like that. Like that wasn't part of our day to day. But several of us were smoking, weed on a regular basis, and it was integrated into our training, and it was just part of how we had fun, and it made the whole thing fun. And so we during the build up to the Olympics, we had to go off weed because it was on the list of banned substances on the new Olympic World Cup tour that they started. And then so that was fine, and I did several drug tests with no bad news, and I thought everything was good. And then I get to the Olympics and test positive somehow. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just did 3 drug tests before I came here. How is it that I'm testing positive now? And it turns out I've been testing positive for cannabis in all my drug tests.
Oh.
Because the Olympic list of banned substances doesn't have cannabis on it, they weren't telling me that I was testing positive for cannabis.
Oh my gosh.
And so I get there fully like set up. And I mean, you can't plan to win the Olympics, but I was ranked, number 1 in the world, for 3 years. I was ranked in the top 3 for 3 years consecutively right before the Olympics, and ranked number 1 going into the Olympics from the pro tour, which is different than the new Olympic tour that they started. So it was a good chance that I was going to do well and maybe win. I knew that was possible, but it turns out that I won, and then I test positive for weed, which is interesting because it's not on the list of banned substances. Then why did it become a thing in the first place? So it was just kind of like one of those weird situations where kind of want to know why they tried to do that, even though it's not on the list of banned substances. Maybe it was an oversight, but I mean, it's not the first time
they've done add it onto the list later on.
In the summer of '98, they added it on. It's called the Ross rule, and since they added it that summer of '98 till now, they've raised the threshold at over 1,000%. So from what it was then till now, you're allowed 1,000% more in your drug test analysis and still not test positive, or however you want to look at it. But yeah, so now they've added it now. So that caused a whole huge story.
Yeah, and if you're gonna hire Snoop Dogg to carry the torch,
right? Yeah, no, Snoop's like the
Olympic next
ambassador.
It's Cheech and Chong, and then you're gonna still tell us weed's bad.
Right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting one for sure. And so anyways, it kind of was like a double-edged sword for me. Like there was, some missed opportunities, but also some new open doors. And, obviously, being in jail in Japan and getting on the no-fly list, and there was a lot of bumps on the, along the road to get here, and, things that I had to endure, that I wasn't expecting, let's just put it that way. So
yeah.
When
did you start snowboarding?
I started snowboarding in 1987. I was 15, and that was before snowboarding. That was before snowboarding was allowed anywhere in Canada. So we had to go down to the United States, and then I was 15. I would have started earlier, but it just literally was being invented at the time. So you couldn't do it anywhere. There was no snowboard shops. You couldn't buy a snowboard. You couldn't rent a snow. Like they just did not exist. Like my friends went down to Washington to buy snowboards. Mount Baker allowed snowboarding. So my dad was driving me and my buddies down to Mount Baker in Washington. In 87, and then 88 Whistler Mountain, or it wasn't Whistler, Blackcomb allowed snowboarding, and a couple of other ski resorts. And then by 1990, snowboarding was like the #1 new sport going. And then literally 8 years later, we were at the Olympics. So it was like this super crazy ride. The snowboard revolution, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and you were at the forefront of that. That is so cool. Like you think you know the story, and then you hear it from them themselves.
Yeah, sometimes people are like, what do you mean snowboarding wasn't allowed? I'm like, yeah, it just literally wasn't invented yet. Like nobody had even tried to snowboard on a mountain. And then all of a sudden, like they allowed it in Europe, and then a couple of places in the States allowed it. And then the next thing you know, it was gangbusters. It was everywhere.
See, in high school, I was obsessed with skateboarding. I still skateboard, I still longboard. I just don't do anything crazy anymore because I'm old. But but it's still like just to kind of bop around town was amazing. And then you get into the culture of it and the history of it and how they started with little clay wheels and
Yeah,
just breaking
yeah,
into abandoned or empty houses and playing in the pool. And so
yeah.
it's just like where they came from.
Like my
And
growing up, because I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, right? And
yeah,
so like the Bones Brigade movie was like, that's how I grew up. Like we were literally breaking into the backyards and skating pools and water reservoirs. And that's why we got into snowboarding, because in the winter we couldn't skateboard. So, that was the perfect option for us. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you still snowboard often?
Yeah, well, as much as I can, with the family.
Yeah.
I got one of my kids is a hockey player, and so we're going to
Awesome.
lots of hockey games, and one of my other kids is a football player, and so we in the summer football season, we got a lot going on and all the time, plus the
Yeah.
business with so it's not I'm not living on the side of the run like I used to, but still love going out any chance I can. Our kids are snowboarding and skiing, so just
Perfect.
yeah, it's hard to get up as much as we used to. It was way more accessible back in the 80s and 90s. Like you could buy a lift ticket for $25.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like it is very, very pricey. So you just feel like you have to commit to it. And that's a lot, especially as you get older and you got shit to do, right? Like
Yeah,
do you really want to drop $2,000 on a setup and a season
right.
pass? And what if
No,
you hate it? What if you break your
yeah, like
ankle?
just the season's pass is $2,000.
Oh
It's
my
yeah,
God. I don't
kind of
even
like
know anymore.
you're gonna pick snowboarding or golf or race cars. They all cost the same amount of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
life for it. So you buy a bag of weed and that suffices.
Yeah, I buy a bag of weed and watch snowboarding on the Olympics.
We'll
That's
make
fine.
some snow angels.
Yeah, I got my little snowboard guy.
Yeah, yeah. We got a bunch of tech decks around the house,
Yeah,
actually. Is there
exactly.
the snowboard version of tech decks?
There's gotta be.
There should be. You pour the water in, you put it in the freezer. The next morning, you got yourself little slow.
Yeah, you can stick your fingers in the bindings instead of trying to ollie it, right? You got bindings.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We're on to something.
I think so.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been really, really fun. I think we're kind of coming to the end, but is there anything else you want to share? Anything you want to say? You want to do a dance? This is your moment to shine.
You could check me out at on my Instagram page at Ross Rebagliati 98. You can check out the machine in action. Also at Straight Roll Pro. Yeah, and yeah, just have fun out there. The world needs us right now. We need to turn things around, so let's do that.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it.
Perfect.
Well,
Thanks, Brittany.
thank you, Ross. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Awesome.